a consistent narrowing of the gap in recent months. Also tonight, the president still enjoying a big advantage in the enthusiasm gap. More than half of Biden supporters motivated not to vote for their candidate, but against President Trump. Let's crunch some more numbers as we count down to November 3rd with Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume. Good to have you tonight, Brit.
Thank you, Shannon. Nice to see you.
Okay, so one of the areas that is of some concern is the Hispanic vote for the Biden camp. This headline in the Washington Post: Latino groups warn that Biden's sluggish outreach to their voters could hurt in November. And recent polls show us, Britt, that the president is doing better with this group than he apparently did back in 2016.
That's right, and there's one poll actually that shows him ahead. Our poll shows him not ahead, but doing far better than he did 4 years ago when he certainly lost the Hispanic vote. So that could make a big difference in the outcome of the election. The number in this poll that I think is less encouraging for the president is the number among elderly voters, senior voters, who are people who do turn out. And he won that cohort 4 years ago, and he's trailing now, so he's got some work to do there. But these numbers among Hispanics, for the Trump campaign at least, are really encouraging.
Another one of our Fox News polls: who do you trust to do a better job on bringing the country together? And that is something people want to see right now. There's a lot of division across a number of issues. They give Biden the edge there, 54% to 41% for the president. How does he make a better case on that front?
Well, that's a very good question, Shannon, and it's something I wonder if the president has thought very much about, because when you look at the truth is that the Biden campaign wants the election to be about Trump, and they're keeping their candidate under wraps. I think for a number of reasons, but one of them is they want to keep the focus on Trump. Well, Trump wants to keep the focus on Trump. He's the most conspicuous president we probably ever had. He's out there all the time. He's talking every day. He has a message, I guess, that he thinks of day by day. But then he holds news conferences in which he talks about a million different things and finds all kinds of opportunities to say things that get him in hot water. It seems to me that to some extent, at least, the way the president is campaigning is playing into their hands. Now, we all remember, Shannon, 4 years ago, when in the closing stretch of the campaign, the final weeks, all the tweeting basically stopped. The various different messages all over the place stopped. He campaigned in a very focused way in all the key states and won the election. Maybe he's going to do that again. But if I were, I don't think he should wait another day if he's going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know one of the areas you think that he could do a better job of is at least messaging on the COVID issue. You say he's taken a lot of actions that people would applaud, and we're learning new things every day. I know you and I follow a lot of people, read a lot of people who are all across the spectrum on COVID, what's working, what's not, crunching the data and looking at that. One of the people that we were all starting to notice a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, was Dr. Scott Atlas, who's with Stanford's Hoover Institute. And he is now advising the president, is in favor with the president. And so we've seen a lot of folks not so happy with Dr. Atlas anymore. Ovik Roy tweets this. He says, YouTube just took down a June 23rd interview that Scott Atlas did with his employer, Hoover Institute, because it, quote, contradicts the World Health Organization or local health authorities' medical information about COVID-19. So just to tell people what he was talking about, the Federalist says this: Atlas didn't deny the seriousness of the disease or the need to act to prevent its spread. He merely questioned the efficacy of broad lockdowns, and he pointed out the resulting creation of acute economic distress and other unintended consequences that end up compromising public health. I mean, Britt, is it possible for the COVID conversation this close to the election to be apolitical?
Well, I'm not sure it can be apolitical, Shannon, but it certainly ought to be wide open to all sorts of different viewpoints. I mean, YouTube is supposed to be basically an open forum. That's what all these big tech sites are supposed to be, where a lot of different voices are heard. Dr. Scott Atlas is well qualified. No, he's not an epidemiologist, but he is a medical expert, and his views are based on various studies that he's seen. The idea that they would shut him down because he disagrees with the World Health Organization and other health authorities, who have been, by the way, all over the place on this disease from the start. So I think that's dismaying to hear that that's happened with him. But we ought to be listening to a lot of voices here. And Dr. Atlas really isn't a COVID skeptic. He's a lockdown skeptic. I'm a lockdown skeptic too. There are many of us out there who think but we've known enough from the beginning about who gets infected with this disease and who is most vulnerable to it, to know that locking down everybody, and in fact quarantining the healthy and those much less likely to become sick, was a terrible mistake that has cost the country untold damage in wages and business lost and in public health that relate to issues other than COVID. So I think it's utterly regrettable that that's happened with him, and I hope it doesn't continue.
Yeah, and notable today that a federal judge in Pennsylvania actually ruled in favor of a number of plaintiffs who were fighting against the governor's lockdowns there. He said the Constitution cannot accept the concept of a new normal where the basic liberties of the people can be subordinated to open-ended emergency mitigation measures. So some of what he did didn't pass constitutional muster. We'll talk about that in the rest of the show coming up. Britt. Yeah, go ahead. Final word from you, Britt.
Thank you.